are falling on my head. Just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed. Nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head. They keep falling.
Hello, and thank you very much for this interview. And this is your first time in Istanbul.
Yeah.
And what's your impressions?
I'm very excited to be here. I really am. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Okay, Mr. Redford, the 70s is a golden era for Hollywood, and you had several classic movies in those years, and you are one of the true survivors of the era. And how do you see the change from the 70s to today in American cinema? What's better? What's worse?
Well, there's big change. The film business is very different now than it was then.
Mm-hmm.
I think then it was probably healthier, on the whole, it was probably healthier, because the mainstream cinema, what we call Hollywood, would make larger films, but they also made some smaller films. And I was able to do that. I was able to make a larger film like Butch Cassidy or The Great Gatsby or The Way We Were. At the same time, they would let me make a smaller film, Jeremiah Johnson, The Candidate, Downhill Racer, Ordinary People.
Mm-hmm.
Those were small, more independent films, but they would allow me to make those films while I was doing the bigger ones. Then things separated out in 1979, 1980, because Hollywood began to change. Hollywood became more centralized and began to shrink. So it no longer made those, it began to focus more on films for young people.
And I think America began to change at 80s, maybe.
Yes, it did, and it's changing now also.
Yes.
There are periods of change that come, and when periods of change come, they're sometimes violent, they're extreme. Right now we're in an extreme period of change. But anyway, Hollywood changed because it became more centralized. It followed the youth market, because Hollywood is a business, and that's all it ever has been.
Big business.
So it's about where the money is. So the money was getting more and more with the young people. So they started to make films for young people, blockbusters, big like cartoons, so forth. And now they're making comic book movies. So, but that's okay, because it's entertainment. That's fine. But they no longer made the smaller films, and so I got concerned because those films were films that I liked to make, the humanistic side of film. At the same time that was happening, there was a new distribution about to explode through television. Cable television was coming on. Video was coming on. That didn't exist before. And then suddenly computers were coming. So things were changing violently. And what I saw was this space opened up that was unoccupied for independent films.
How much can you tell me about Deep Throat?
How much do you need to know?
You trust him?
Yeah.
Let's talk about independent movies. What makes a movie independent?
Well, first of all, that it's not edited or overseen by a conventional mind. That if you have a studio that's conventional minded, it's only about where they think the money's going to go, and they try to control the independent project, then you have interference, which means the independence is taken away. So you want to protect the right of the artist to have his or her voice kept untampered with. In other words, the purity of that original voice is kept intact. There's no governing force that comes in and says, no, you have to change the ending, no, you have to change this, you have to change the title, or you have to hire a star. No, you're able to make the film exactly the way you want to make it, and that's what I support.
Sundance Institute, then Sundance Festival, and now Sundance Channel. How about the production side? How come there isn't a movie production company under Sundance name?
There is now. There's something called Sundance Productions. It's my own company, and we are producing work from independent sources. That's just now started. It's just a few months old. aside from that, I think probably the strongest part of all the Sundance entities is the Sundance Channel, because it's able to take films and move it to larger audiences around the world, no longer just in America, but now in other countries. So now we have Turkey, and now we're in 25 countries. When we started 3 years ago, it was just 1 or 2. Now they're 25. So the Sundance Channel is able to take this work of independent artists in America anyway. I don't think you can say in Turkey there's independent film and mainstream film, because it seems like it's all independent. The only mainstream stuff that comes here is the stuff that's imported from Hollywood. You know, our mainstream films come here, and I suspect they do very well. But in terms of the films made here, there's only independent. It's all the same. So therefore, I don't know that you can say, well, independent film. That's what film is here. But that's what we support, and so it's exciting for me to be able to go to other places and find out people that tell their own stories in exactly the way they want to tell them, without any interference, and protect that, and then bring those stories to a larger audience. That to me is exciting.
You got any more? Better give it all to me if you want to keep it.
An analogy. Some say that Sundance is Luke Skywalker and Miramax is Darth Vader. Do you agree?
Well, Miramax is a business. I mean, Miramax started, I think the Miramax people did a very smart thing. To get into the film business, I think they always wanted to be big. That's what I think. But they had to start small, because they couldn't begin to compete with larger studios. So they started small, and they supported independent films. But and they were very smart about the films that they supported, because if you notice, most of those films always had commercial possibilities. So I think Miramax is basically a merchant mentality, merchant sensibility. Find something that can eventually make money for you. So they did a very good job to begin with getting into independent film, because there was no one to compete with it. And once they began to succeed, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you see that they're competing with major studios, because I think that's what they always wanted to be, is a major studio.
There are some young movie makers who consider the Sundance Festival as a stepping stone to mainstream Hollywood. And what exactly is the position of Sundance in the industry?
The position of Sundance is you do whatever you want to do. You're independent. You can do what, if you want to go to Hollywood, you can go to Hollywood. If you want to start as a small movie and you have a success, and then you have a choice. You can either go join Hollywood if you want, or you can maintain your independence if you want. We don't judge it. We just support the independent part of it. Once that independence becomes commercially successful, the filmmaker has their own choice to make. If they say, no, I have a success, but I'm not going to go Hollywood. There's too many voices in the picture. There's too many other people trying to control my project. No, I stay independent. Or, no, I will go to Hollywood. I will make more money. I can make movies that are with big stars, so I'm going to go there. That's their choice. We don't get into that. We just support the original work that they do.
And is there any director in the world that you haven't already worked with and would like to work?
Oh, there are many. I think there are many, and there are new ones that come along every year. You know, there are many. There are many I would like to work with. Though I just worked with one in the film I just finished as an actor. His name is J.C. Chandor. He made a film called Margin Call about the financial industry. He's an independent filmmaker that we premiered his film at Sundance. He came to me with a script about a man sailing on a boat who gets caught in a storm and what he does to survive, and there's no dialogue. There's no dialogue in the film. Just me. I said, this is bold, this is different. I'll do it, you know.
Raindrops are falling on my head, just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed. Nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling.